Hello, everyone. Welcome to Opinions New by Dr. Frank Tianshi. I'm Frank. Yeah. In this episode, I want to talk to you about the accidental or incidental accelerator of CCP's demise. Okay? Accidental or incidental accelerator of CCP's demise. What do I mean by that? Some of you might have heard this nickname Accelerator, Accelerator-in-Chief of CCP. That's Chinese, referring to Chinese Communist leader Xi Jinping. Okay, and what do they mean by that? Okay? Recently, we have seen the escalation or the tension between U.S. and China. Right? President Trump, said a few days ago that on Twitter that if Biden something like this, if Biden wins the CCP, the Chinese communists will win. It's just as simple. It'll be disaster to America. Right? So how would the Chinese communist elite view these words of Trump? Right? They probably feel quite frustrated because they know that they passed the point of no return, and the breakup of the relationship between U.S. and China is inevitable. Right? There could be even further confrontation or even war between the two countries. That seems to be imminent, right? But the final, you can see the final breakup probably is not going to happen before U.S. election, but it probably won't be delayed too much. As American, from government to the society, we have all realized that as long as this Chinese Communist Party is in place, the troubles to America and to the world will never end. Okay? And also some tweeters from China, who can actually have the access to tweeters in the outside of China, outside of Chinese firewall also supported China. One of them is Mr. Bai from Shanghai. He says something to the effect that the American president must be against Chinese communists and must substantiate its actions towards eliminating CCP. Then and only then will the American president be re-elected. I think he's quite right. He also says something, it is a Chinese Communist Party who actually made this virus, to spread all over the world, and China owes to America, to the whole world, to all the people in the world, an explanation of why they did that. Okay? Well, we know the U.S. election or campaign, by two parties, the two sides are, just going on like it should be. Right? And in China, things are changing as well. Situations are changing as well, and there are often new major news breaking out in China. But the people observers of China, either in China or outside of China, or in academia, or in the society, in the news media, they're often confused by what this Xi Jinping is doing as the accelerator-in-chief of the CCP's demise. Because sometimes they wonder, is he trying to protect the party or trying to destroy the party? Right? Is really accelerating the death of CCP or trying to save it from being disrupted. Right? So sometimes his actions are kind of really confusing to observers of Chinese affairs. Right? So we don't know exactly what he's trying to do. It's very confusing, right? If he really wants to accelerate to destroy, to resolve the CCP, and why doesn't he just do it? Dissolve the Communist Party, Chinese Communist Party. We can solve all the problems we have. Right? If he does not want to accelerate this demise of CCP, how come he did so many things to do just that? Okay? For example, there's a anti-giraffe movement a few years ago, right? They actually, punished, arrested tons of corrupted officials in China. There's the small ones, the middle ones, and even big ones. Big. They call it tigers, big tigers, or giant tigers. The high-level officials that are corrupt. Right? And of course, when he did that, people in China were cheering for his actions. But the anti-giraffe actions stopped, or suddenly stopped, just before it reaches the highest level, reaching the point to get Jiang Zemin, the former Chinese leader, arrested. Right? So what is he doing there? Right? Is he trying to cut off the bad guys, and then to save the party, or he's trying, he's really revealing the dirty secret of the party and in preparation for the total demise of Chinese Communist Party. Right? The viewpoints are there are two different opposite viewpoints by people outside of China on both sides. So also we have seen that recently China and India have engaged in border conflict, right? That kind of, and if China really wants to maintain stability, the CCP wants to maintain stability to keep its power, keep itself in power. They really shouldn't fight two wars at the same time or have enemies all over the place, right? On the east side, on the east, China has to face U.S. navies and Japanese navies, with both of which are actually pushing, towards China bit by bit. Okay? And also on the west side, they're fighting or they're confronting the Indian army. And you know who is in the Indian army? They're actually Tibetans. Yeah, Tibetans who joined the Indian army, and those people who were actually fled from China, were forced out of Tibet by the Chinese communists many years ago. It's their people, those people who are determined to fight the Chinese communists. Okay? So there could be clashes, clash in the East Front or West Front, right? And then it could happen, both could happen at the same time. In that case, China will have to fight with two powerful countries. The most powerful country in the world, the USA, and the largest democracy in the world, India, right? And also, remember who is behind India in this on China's Western Front? Russia. Right? Russia is actually selling its top grade, top-notch weapons systems to India and withdrawing its help, assistance to Chinese military. So you can imagine, with U.S., India, and Russia on one side, and Chinese communists on the other side, who is going to win? It's obvious, right? And not only in the eastern western front, in the south, there's a clash between China and Australia. Yeah? The last two Australian journalists, made an emergency exit out of China, and the Australian government is also looking into the Chinese journalists in Australia, right? And in Europe, we have observed that China is maintaining a really good cordial relationship between Germany, but that seems to be changing. The German attitude towards Chinese communists is changing. Right? To what degree or to what extent will Germany take on its new stance against China is yet to see, but there is a change there. Right? And also, there is, in fact, a decoupling between U.S. and China. And that also shows the dilemma the Chinese Communist Party's leader, Xi Jinping, is in, the chief accelerator-in-chief. Okay? President Trump said again over and over that China and U.S. could decouple, right? And U.S. does not have to do the business with China, right? And also the U.S. government is considering, punishing. There's a national semiconductor or chip maker of China, put that into the list, forbidden list, right? And also U.S. could stop the import of cottons made in Xinjiang, the Uyghurs or the Muslim country, in China, right? And also, if you look at the Chinese government, they are actually taking back the old format of buying the state-owned or state-sanctioned purchase or forced purchase of all agricultural products, and then sell them through state-owned controlled media channels in China. Something they did actually 40, 50 years ago. And so if they truly want, China truly wants to decouple with China, with America, they could just do that. But at least they can stay strong, stay hardline. At least that will gain them some support from the Maoist left in China, the hardliners. Right? And maybe they also show that the Chinese government does not really want to decouple. If they don't, it seems to be the case. If you look at some of their behaviors, they are still buying lots of grains, lots of food product, agricultural product from U.S., from soybeans to wheat to I think it is like soybeans, and corns, right? And if you're doing that, then why don't they just say, hey, put get down to the earth and fulfill the obligations, China's obligations in the phase one deal, between the two countries, and also acknowledge, to the world that they did something bad with regard to the virus, right, and ask for forgiveness, right? But the thing is, the situation now is Trump is saying that the U.S. want to decouple, to separate, to divorce China, and but China wants to get connected, get hooked, get married with America, even send in a large deposit or some tributary money, But the U.S. is now buying that. Trump administration is not, taking that, right? So also, if you look at the economic strategy of the Chinese government, they're using what is called the double circulation or double cycling. I would say two or dual circulation strategy, something like that, right? Meaning that they're going to have internal circulation or internal cycling, where they emphasize on domestic need and domestic consumption, and also domestic innovation as a major means of economic development. And on the other cycling or circulation, external circulation, means that they want to keep having those foreign investment and keep accessing global market as the second engine of economic growth, right? But this is really a catch-22 situation, right? They want to on one end, they want to transform Chinese economy and into our more advanced economy and have better technologies, and have more value-added manufacturing in the economy, right? And but on the other side, they want to close itself, and also rely on domestic consumption and government control, central planning, as a way of boosting his economy. So basically, that's the catch-22 situation. It can't go both ways, right? And in order to enhance or increase domestic demand, the Chinese government is trying to redistribute wealth to ordinary citizens, peoples, in order to reduce the wealth disparity in China. That seems to be good, right? But on the other hand, the Chinese government or communist regime is not really touching the interest of the establishment. Right? Establishment, that's the core communist elite. Right? It's just like the anti-draft, movement, which came to a sudden stop. Right? Basically, the government or Xi Jinping has to maintain the well-beings and wealth of the top 500 to 1,000 families. That's the party elite families and their inner circle, right? In order to maintain the grip of power. Right? So the accelerator-in-chief, Xi Jinping, on one hand, tries to maintain, to keep or to save the party and keep the interest of the establishment in China. On the other hand, he's trying to stabilize the society and give some money or to the wealth. I mean, not to the people, right? But obviously, he cannot make a final decision. He cannot really make that happen. Okay. Also, China had this system called I don't know the exact translation here into English. But basically, you have to how to put it this way, kind of like you are everyone, every citizen, kind of like locked into a residential registration system. That's called a forced residential registration system. Before it means that if you have a residence, in rural area of China, you cannot move into the city. If you're in the city, you cannot go to rural area or to buy a farm or agricultural land. In other words, they're really using this residential registration system to lock down on people. So to have to keep the people in the city stay in the city, and people in the countryside stay in the countryside. So there's no free flowing of labor and people inside China. That sounds something quite odd. It's probably hard to understand for people outside of China. So they know this is a notorious system, right? They want to abolish that, but there is a boycott on that. They met resistance, right? So they want to, on one hand, they try to have this social reform, to abolish the special treatment of the Chinese communist elite, right? And the special treatment or protection of the elite's, interest. But on the other hand, they want to try to appease to the people, to give people a little bit of freedom, free flow for immigration, internal immigration, in China. But they cannot really make that the determination to proceed with that. Okay? In Chinese social media, there's a new terminology called accelerationism. It's called accelerationism. Basically, and both people in the Chinese political arena, the two sides, right, left and right. It's not exactly the same as the left and right in this country. It's kind of different. The left in China means those people who are adhering to the Maoist doctrine, right? Want to stay with the communist rule, right? And the so-called right in China, right wing in China, means are those people who are more likely, to embrace Western idea, and they insist on opening up to the Western business, economy, and investment, things like that. So for this accelerationism, let's call this, the left think that the Xi Jinping, the accelerator-in-chief, is taking China to even stronger, and accelerate the rise of China as the global power, superpower. But the right wing thinks that this acceleration is actually towards total destruction or demise, right? So both sides are viewing the thing, from different perspective, right? So this term accelerator-in-chief can be viewed as positive or negative. You choose your pick, basically, right? But one thing that both sides share in common is that the changes in the society, in Chinese society, in political landscape, economy, and everything is accelerating. the pace of change is accelerating. Is it accelerating towards the good, stronger, or to the bad, to weaker, or death? It's up to you. Okay? But no matter what, which side you're on, and what your point of view is, something is coming to an end. That everyone agrees. Okay? The other day, I was thinking, I was doing my meditation and thought about this whole issue, and then suddenly thought about this idea. This the so-called conflict in conceptualization about this Xi Jinping being accelerator-in-chief is leading to a more powerful or stronger communist control of China, or to the demise of Chinese Communist Party. But there really seems to be, seemingly there are two conflict, ideology here, right? Two concepts here, but they're not really in conflict. No matter what he does, no matter what he does, he's actually, still moving towards total destruction of Chinese Communist Party and this Chinese Communist regime, right? So people have been saying that this is really heavily mandated to have China, the Chinese communism, to come to an end in our world today. After we have seen the fall and demise of Soviet communists and also communist countries in Eastern Europe. Now we have President Trump, who's really standing tall and strong in the forefront of confronting Chinese communism. That's why this election is so important, and that's why also I think it's quite reasonable, and it's very true that there is a heavenly mandate on total elimination of Chinese communists. Okay, we'll see. Thank you very much. This is this episode of Opinions New by Frank. I'll see you or talk to you next time. Bye-bye.